As the number of victims keeps rising, the failures to stop Mohamed al Fayed become abundantly clear. The Crown Prosecution Service, the latest, deciding not to prosecute him in both 2009 and 2015 after being passed files by the police. The Victims Commissioner at the time firmly blaming the culture inside the CPS.
Frankly, the CPS then were a sort of dustbin into which complaints about gender violence just fell. It was like negativity was what surrounded them. That is a very symptomatic story of the way the CPS defend themselves when they should have prosecuted and they haven't.
There have been multiple attempts to expose Fayed. In 1995, he sued Vanity Fair after it alleged sexual misconduct and racism. 2 years later, a documentary shared multiple employees' stories. Over a decade later, a 15-year-old reported an assault to the police, but the CPS dropped the case. Another case was dropped in 2015. 2 documentaries alleging sexual abuse followed in 2017 and 2018. And in 2018, 2021 and 2023, the Met Police asked the CPS for advice on investigating Fayed. Only now, with a new documentary, are those who turned a blind eye being held to account.
There was a systematic enabling of the recruitment of vulnerable women for the purposes of their sexual exploitation by Mohamed al Fayed within the Harrods organisation.
With his death last year, those who were abused feel freer to speak. Al Fayed using his wealth to frighten those who tried to report him.
And wherever he was hunting ground for him. He acted with impunity. The problem that many of journalists found in bringing Fayed to book were, of course, the libel laws, which were pretty draconian, but worst of all, the judges were unwilling very often, and mostly, to actually side with the journalists against people like Fayed.
Senior executives who used to work at Harrods have told us how toxic and unpleasant it was to work for Al Fayed, with one describing his behaviour generally towards people as abhorrent, and that's before you even consider the sexual abuse. He thought that he was untouchable, and there were people around him prepared to help keep it that way.
I own the shop, and no one ever will be able to take away from me. Only God.
His generous donations to charities were part of his front. Cancer Research UK among those saying they'll now reconsider their future links with his foundation. For too long, his victims suffered, their courage to stand up only ignored. Now those who could have stopped Al Fayed sooner in his absence must answer for him. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.